Thank you very much, Admiral. I have a couple of things I want to be sure that we get out of the way early. One is a problem. Now and then you hear about it. I haven't heard recently, and I don't know of anyone around here who has any real interest in any kind of a no first use policy. But something it's always bothered me because it seems like no one talks about it, and yet it always does appear. And there are people out there, and I'd just like to ask you some questions about that. I would assume that you would agree that that would limit our ability to deter an extremely dangerous non-nuclear attack. So we're talking about something a chemical or biological, maybe a cyber attack. Would you agree with that?
Senator, yes. My best military advice would be to not adopt a no first use policy.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, but I also want to mention a couple other things about that because I want to get that into the record. And that one would be our allies. Wouldn't our allies be concerned as to whether or not we'd have the capability and the desire to do the things that we are doing for our allies if we had such a policy?
Senator, yes. I think adoption of a no first use policy would have a significant negative effect on our commitments to our allies.
Mm-hmm. And so I think you have pretty strong feelings about that. Anything else? Well, the other thing that they talk about is the de-alerting. To me, the whole idea of de-alerting is something. The whole idea on responding is to respond quickly, and you don't have the luxury of time. But to deliberately de-alert, I would assume you'd agree with that. That's something that we should not be concerned about, or we should be concerned about if someone starts bringing this up.
Again, Mr. Chairman, I would not recommend that. It would diminish one of the key attributes that the intercontinental ballistic missile leg adds, and also in a crisis situation, a potential race to re-alert would be destabilizing, probably when we need it the least.
Yeah, well, and I appreciate that. Now, in my opening statement, I mentioned that we recently canceled a program for modernization of ground-based interceptors in Alaska, and I'm sure our senator from Alaska is going to be bringing this up. But according to the initial plans, the proposed replacement program, the next-gen interceptor, will likely not be fielded until 2030. What are we going to be doing between now and 2030 in that field? What capabilities do we have, even though we have been a little disappointed in what's happened in Alaska?
Mr. Chairman, the capabilities that we have fielded today are quite effective against the threats that we face today. General Dickinson, the responsible commander, recently discussed his confidence, and I share that confidence in the ability of the fielded system today to defend us. Any delay, of course, is of concern. I have great confidence, though, the Missile Defense Agency and the services will be able to work through the challenges represented and be able to pace the threat.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm sure that's right. And lastly, I mentioned in my opening statement this document that I'm very impressed with. And do you support the recommendations of the Nuclear Posture Review as well as the recommendations in this document, including the low-yield submarine-launched ballistic missile?
Mr. Chairman, I do. I think they're both well-written documents.
Very good. Senator Reed.